Right, good evening to you. How have yours been? Join us live on Zima. You can hear the sound of my voice. Do let us know where you're logging in from. This is your news network Zima, and we're starting straight away. Good evening to you, and do press the share button if you can. Wait, as soon as you're coming in, and let us know where you're logging in from. My name is Simba Chikanza. It is 9:20 over here where I am. I don't know what time it is where you are. Just type it in the comment box. And tonight I'm joined by a legendary journalist. He is way older than me. He's been around for some time. But at the same time, I know he's not a stranger to Zimbabwe. This is Brilliant Pongo. Good evening, Brilliant. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Thank you for having me on your platform, Simba, and it's great to see you, man.
Oh, thank you very much, and I'm so happy to have this. I'm hoping that it's going to be a rich interaction around the things that are happening in our country and beyond, and especially from your background as well. So, Zimbabweans and nation around the world, do type in the comment box and let us know where you're logging in from. I can see people are storming in right now. Well, our viewers, witnesses, what is happening where you are? Someone has been asking me today, numerous people actually. They call, they write. What's the way forward, Simba? What is the way forward with CCC? What is going on? And just yesterday, we had conversations in the media and in the social media. And these conversations are criticizing the CCC, the opposition party in Zimbabwe, for what they're saying they failed to remove Emerson Mnangagwa. So they need to change everything. They need a bank account, they need a constitution, and all sorts. Brilliant. You've been around longer than me. What's going on? CCC has messed up. What do we do?
Well,
I'm talking from the perspective of what's the air. Yeah.
yeah. So from the issue right now is, I mean, people would have been disappointed that things did not go the way that, in this case, the majority would have wanted. The majority, which is those that are on the ground that popularly voted for CCC, they will obviously be disappointed at the moment. But this is the time when they need to stand strong and hold their ground, albeit that they have not got power or have not got into power. They must stand their ground, because at this moment it becomes very easy for people to be persuaded to pressure the CCC to change and revamp its ways. It's a very new political party if we think about it. Let's not think of it in the context of the MDCT and all that. Let's look at it as CCC, very new party, perhaps. This became.
Sorry, Brilliant. Some people are saying we need to fix the sound.
All right.
I think your sound is a bit shaky. And I'm wondering, how do we do this?
Right. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's gotten better. It's gotten far much better. Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Right. So I was saying we should look at CCC as a new political party that has not been around for that long. And if we look at that and look at what they managed to achieve thus far, they have done a lot more than was expected. So it is easier for the propagandists from ZANU-PF to start pushing the narrative that CCC failed, and therefore change needs to come from within that CCC's restructuring needs to come in and all that sort of thing. So this further divides the opposition, and this has been the modus operandi of ZANU-PF to continue to break every opposition party that comes to stand against ZANU-PF. We saw this happening with the MDC, and then it became MDCT, MDC Ncube, MDC Changirai, and then we saw all the things that have been happening. We've seen the tactics that ZANU-PF uses to sort of destabilize the opposition and continue to break them into smaller groups that fight amongst themselves. So the tactic has always been divide and rule. So I think at this time, it's stand together. Those that are CCC stand together and not call for any disruption within the CCC's way of operation. So all this call, they came into this election without the so-called structure. They came into this election without all that. But look at how much they pushed this. I mean, if they at least say if we're saying that they got like 2% of the vote, would be saying, okay, let's look at how to restructure. But they, even in the election that SADC and the AU and the European Union have called as not free and not having been a fair election, they still managed to garner over 40%, 44%, according to Zach. But other people may think that those numbers were higher than that. So it's not time for people to be calling for Chamisa's head. In fact, they need to stand strong and maybe look at what EFF has done. EFF has been around for, if we look across the border into South Africa, EFF has been around for 10 years. And look at the gains that they've made. Slowly but surely, they're getting there. I know people want this like yesterday. They want SNUB gone like yesterday. But it's not possible to just do it that way, especially given the political arena that is in Zimbabwe and the way that the politics is playing out in Zimbabwe. It's not going to be an easy thing that we just wake up tomorrow morning and we have CCC in power.
But then there's this also thing that people say, look, the CCC has failed. They've failed to remove. Now, no matter what and how much they have tried. Now, this is not to say they have not tried, okay? But people have pointed the finger at Nelson Chamisa directly. And they said, you, Chamisa, because you have failed to remove Emerson Mnangagwa, you have failed to remove ZANU-PF. So because you have failed, you must step down or you must. So maybe let me ask you on that. What people say, and I think you've seen these commentaries here, that because you failed, look, once you have failed, give others a chance.
Let's be honest with each other, because if we are talking about CCC, like I said, let's look at CCC as a new political party that it is. So how many times has the CCC failed? How many elections have they gone into? So I think it's a bit premature. And this is something that is pushed by other journalists that would come up and say, well, he has failed, he has no structure, he has no bank account, he has not. But if we look at what it is that they've managed to achieve in this showing, how long has the CCC been in existence and what did they achieve in that short period of time? Let's not look at and say, well, Chamisa used to be in the MDC, used to be. We're talking about CCC here, which is now the biggest opposition party in Zimbabwe as things stand. So if we're talking about any opposition in Zimbabwe, the only opposition to write home about or to even speak about at the moment is CCC. So if anybody thinks that they can organize something stronger and better than CCC, they are very free to do so. I'm not speaking here as somebody that is within the CCC. No, I'm just saying, if we believe that there is space for political opposition in Zimbabwe, it shouldn't just be the CCC. If somebody else is thinking, well, they can come in and have a better showing, they can come in and do that. Because it's very easy for us to say he has failed. And at the same time, in the same breath, people will be saying Mnangagwa rigged the election or stole the election. So we need to figure out what it is that we want as Zimbabweans and what it is that we want the narrative to be. Are we saying he failed? Are we saying it was stolen again? Or what exactly are we talking about? Because right now, we're in a state of confusion where the only thing that we could do is, because we have nothing else and nobody else to use as a punching bag. Perhaps this is why it's easier to kick at Chamisa and punch at him at the moment, because that's the only thing to do. Are you there, Zimba?
Right. Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I just had to adjust a few things there. 'Cause I think people are still complaining about sound. Right. And how did you find um, the inauguration? I mean, whether you like it or not, brilliant. Mnangagwa was inaugurated, right?
Yes.
So you might not like it, but Mnangagwa was inaugurated. And and tell me about the absence or presence of presidents in Africa. Was that anything to write home about? Because I think you saw that a lot of people said that these presidents have bunked the function. Did they really bunk, or it was an issue of them not being there for other reasons?
Well, we don't know the reasons. That it was quite. I guess for Mnangagwa, it was sad that only 3 leaders from SADC showed up. He probably would have wanted more. ZANU-PF members would have wanted more. But end of the day, it's an inauguration nonetheless, whether they are there or not. It still went ahead. So whether we can read into this and go deep and try and find all the nuances that would explain this and that. But I believe that most of these other countries had representation, either foreign ministers or foreign affairs ministers or some representatives of these SADC governments were present. I mean, speaking specifically of head of states, we only had DRC. I mean, with DRC, we had Mozambique and South Africa. So those were the only 3 that were there, which was quite a sad picture to look at. But I think I did a sort of a parody poem that I put out on whether the leaders from SADC were there or not. The old ladies from Uzumba and the old ladies from Mashingo were still bursting into that space, and they ululated, and the coronation still went ahead. So today we have a president, and he has signed the oath and has taken that up the oath, and service chiefs have sworn allegiance to him and to the constitution, and we have a president, sitting president right now. So that's neither here nor there now, whether there was an attendance or not. We can then read into that and say, do these SADC members support President Mnangagwa? I mean, given the times and things that happened so quickly, we don't know. We have not actually been privileged to find out all these other details. But what we know is that the inauguration went ahead, and that's basically what is on the ground at the moment.
Coming back to coming back to our original stories here. Once again, we get to see a video that a lot of people were sharing, and I've had people drop it in my inbox. This is of someone who is very, very familiar to me, brilliant, and he is threatening the president of Zambia, saying that the president of Zambia must step down because he did not attend Emerson Mnangagwa's inauguration. Let's just briefly watch it.
The snapping of President Mnangagwa's inauguration by President Hakainde Hichilema is not only an irresponsible act by our president, but it has also undermined the deep relations that we have with Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is not just a neighbor of Zambia. Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi have been part of the federation.
Yes.
And therefore, to take things to the level President Hakainde Hichilema has taken them is extremely sad for us as a country. What should have happened for President Ichilema is that he should have been a bigger brother in all this, especially that he's the chairperson of the SADC organ, Troika, on politics, defense, and security. But also, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema should have known that this is not the first time that Zambia and Zimbabwe would have had differences. But at the end of the day, our relations with Zimbabwe have emerged stronger. Clearly, what the president has done is to pursue personal interests at the expense of regional interests. And this is not in our interest as a country.
No.
Because of that, we would love to just urge President Hakainde Hichilema just to step down as chairperson of the organ Troika.
Yes.
Because it's not serving the interests both of the organ Troika as well as of the SADC Troika.
Brilliant. Are you back?
Yes.
So,
Right. Hari.
right. So,
So I have a bit to say about that guy. And I don't know how much our Zimbabwean audience may be familiar with this particular individual. But Ari Kalaba is
no, they were too busy on that day watching ballot papers. So go ahead.
yeah. So Ari Kalaba is an opposition leader in Zambia. Ari Kalaba is one of those that I would this comes into my space now, that I would term part of the prophetic mafia victims. This is one of those that has been mind controlled by these prophets. He's the same guy that came out defending Hubert Angel, saying the gold mafia thing was is neither here nor there. Hubert Angel is a clean guy, blah blah blah. But he was reading a script that Hubert Angel had prepared for him. He vows to be a son of Bushiri, who happens to be a son of Angel, and so it's confusing when you see a politician of his stature in Zambia being mind controlled by these individuals to a point that he will put his own reputation at stake to defend someone that he calls a spiritual father. Now we see him here coming up and talking about that the relationship between Zambia and Zimbabwe is going to be affected by HH not attending this inauguration ceremony in Zimbabwe. We don't know what it is that held HH back. It's not because he dislikes Mnangagwa or he's trying to strain the relationship between Zimbabwe and Zambia. So he's trying to play at something else here, which is more sinister than a lot of people may see at this stage. But there's a greater thing at work here that is now aiming to pit HH against Emerson Mnangagwa and strain the relations, the diplomatic relations between Zimbabwe and Zambia. So if HH could send an emissary, could send someone to stand on his behalf, Zambia is represented. So let's not make it about personalities that, okay, because HH did not come, Zambia is not behind what happened in Zimbabwe. They sent somebody to stand in for HH. So somebody was there representing Zambia. So in all fairness, we could say Zambia was there. We could say all the other countries that had other people representing them were there. So you cannot then take advantage of that and make a cheap political shot like he's doing, and then say the president has to step down simply because he didn't attend an inauguration ceremony. It to me, it smacks of very shallow politics that he's playing.
He wants HH to turn up at an inauguration in the same way that he turned up for an iPhone 15 that doesn't exist.
Maybe let's get our Zimbabwean audience to speed. This is the same guy that you set up on some sting operation that you did, because you called him up to come and meet up with you to get an iPhone 15. And by the way, the iPhone 15 was supposed to be something of a reward following what he had done for Hubert Angel. So he's getting rewarded for that. So he shows up to the shop. And the question here is, he's tried to run away from that iPhone 15 embarrassment, and that whole showing up to a place where he's thinking he's getting real. Because people might think, okay, maybe he was just there coincidentally. He just happened to be in the same space that you were in. But I was aware of what you were doing prior to you going to this place. You had spoken about this and said, this is what this guy is thinking. He's thinking that I represent Hubert Angel. So in a way, he did not deny that he was working or being used by Hubert Angel to do the bidding for him and the cleaning up of his name. And then he comes to claim the reward for the work that he had done. So that was a sting thing, and it was quite embarrassing. Yeah, and so a lot of people missed that the reason why he was coming for the iPhone 15. What was the reason for that? It was because it was a reward for what he had done. You know, he had been given scripts to read, and as a politician in Southern Africa, an opposition politician in Zambia, he is somebody that has some sort of gravitas and a reputation. Up until that point, he had a reputation of being a very straight person that does not involve himself in scandal or in bribery and stuff like that. He's coming to accept a bribe. The iPhone 15, by the way, the phone that never exists, a golden one, he never even caught onto that to think that you're actually trapping him and showing him that this gold mafia thing that he was defending, he had, we know why he was defending him now, because it came out there that it was because he had been trying to protect and clean up the image and name of Hubert Angel, who we know was on that in those documentary series that Al Jazeera aired, and you were part of that investigation, so you know more about the scandals and the money laundering things. I mean, people can call them allegations and all that now, but there is a lot that was said in there that then translated to what was on the ground. I mean, there was a war chest that was said. These numbers, these figures were not mentioned by Emmerson Mnangagwa, but they were mentioned by Hubert Angel. He told us basically in that Al Jazeera operation that Al Jazeera did. He spoke about the amount of money that Mnangagwa had for this particular election that has just gone past. So what hand did he play in that? So we see that this is a guy that is now doing the bidding again for Zimbabwe and trying to put pressure on HH to move over. And we got to play again. Let's look at all the things here that are at play. These are revolutionary parties that are around Southern Africa. This is why we find that, in my view, HH is now coming up and talking about quashing and warning those that might think of a coup d'etat in Zambia. Why is he speaking about that now? It's because of these things. We need to look at this and see how this goes into Zambia, that even from Zimbabwe and from all those that are revolutionary parties around, they can team up. And what is happening now with people like Hari Kalaba is they are making HH look like he's some imperialist puppet and somebody that is advancing the agenda of the imperialists. So all the revolutionary parties naturally would then react. This is why we find Fikile Mbalula in South Africa speaking about these revolutionary parties and how they stand together. This is perhaps why we find that ANC is meeting with ZANU-PF to talk what are they doing? They're strengthening in each other because of that revolutionary connection that they have. And this then, when you hear that there's somebody like HH, he becomes the natural enemy. But is it the truth, or is it something that people like Hari Kalaba then just fuel up by making such random and weak political statements to ask HH to step down? He was elected by the people of Zambia, and he can't be called to step down simply because he didn't attend an inauguration in Zimbabwe. It doesn't make sense, Harry.
Well, I think it's going to be a good one. I don't know why that headline was not flighted. It should have been like that. Yeah, here is a man who is a politician in Zambia, and he's holding a whole press statement demanding that Hichilema turns up for a function, okay, for something, in the same way that he turned up for a golden iPhone 15 that doesn't exist. I think that would be a good headline. By the way, brilliant! You're also an editor there. You've got some some content.
Yeah. So, but you see,
Yeah.
it's important that we make analysis. I mean, people may not always agree with your analysis, but it's a point of view that you come up with. And I mean, I could even go on and make another analysis with regards Mumba, which may upset a lot of people, but I don't know if you've got time for this. Are you there, Simba?
Brilliant. We're newsmen. We're not propagandists.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're here to give people news without bias.
Yeah,
So
because
there's no one who is a sacred cow.
yeah, because I personally, my opinion and analysis of the situation when I look at it, and having been a news person for such a long time, you probably would pick up on all these things and see that, okay, there's a story and a narrative that everybody's running with, but there are some glaring things that are just there that nobody seems to be touching. So, for example, here's my theory. I look at a person like, because I believe that the progressive leaders that we have in Southern Africa at the moment, the Botswana leader is one of them. HH is one of them, but HH is the one that's actually pushing and driving this thing forward. And that all of a sudden, he's become a threat to other old leaders that are in the region. They are now looking at him as a threat because he's coming up with fresh ideas and he's coming up with a different way of thinking. The people that fought all these revolutionary wars like what we have in Zimbabwe, the average age of the people that would have gone to war now is probably around 75 years old. Those are people that would have actively participated in the struggle, fought, shot guns and whatever. The rest of them would have been too young, but are now claiming to be war veterans and having taken active participation in the war. But that's by the side. So we have a new, fresh sort of thinking that is coming in, people that are coming in as leaders, the likes of Nelson Chamisa, who would not come up and tell us about the war that they fought and all that, because the people that fought for us, we appreciate them. I'm grateful for them. I'm a son of a soldier myself. But those people did their part. We cannot continue to be held at ransom by all this talk that we fought the war, because what happens when all these people are gone? We appreciate the part that they've done. So here's my thing, what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is, I have a theory in my head that this man called Ransom Mumba, yes, everyone in Zimbabwe right now, even those in the CCC, are saluting him and saying he spoke for SADC, he did this, he did that. But I take issue with what he is doing, because I feel that he is now making the SADC report become a Mumba report. And I think it's a deliberate thing, because in my view, it arms ZANU-PF. And coming into Zimbabwe and attacking and attacking the constitution, as it were, of Zimbabwe, and speaking more about the constitution of Zimbabwe, a place that was not his, gave people like Jonathan Moyo the platform now to say, here and there and there, and they will articulate it with such clarity and facts. And they are right in doing that. They are correct in doing that. But what is Mumba's real motive? Let's look beyond the excitement that, yes, he criticized the Zimbabwean election. Those in the CCC will celebrate that. But don't you see that when he goes over and he overdoes it the way that he's doing, he starts to empower and give more ammunition to ZANU-PF to sort of discredit not just this report, but his conduct, that now is now acting outside the perimeters and the remit that he had from SADC. He's now running around every media house speaking about this report, the SADC report, as if it is his report. So it's now about Mumba. It's not about the SADC report. And that now gives everything, the whole thing, that everybody has this hope that something is going to happen. But guess what? This guy is, to me, the exact same as Hari KALABA.
Why do you say so? Some people won't understand that. Brilliant. How on earth do you liken the iPhone 15 man to a preacher of the Bible who was vice president, and right now he is representing a mission that is
for such. But yes, having said that, this is a man that was vice president. This is a man that was ambassador, Zambia's ambassador to Canada. So he must be well versed in how to communicate and be diplomatic in the things and ways that he presents. He is, in my view, deliberately not following that. And by doing that, he is actually now on the side of Emmerson Mnangagwa. Yet in Zimbabwe, they might still be looking at him as somebody that is criticizing the election, criticizing everything about this. But he is now, in his own personal capacity, aiding the situation of looking at how ZANU-PF can now justify and say, well, we can dismiss this report because of his actions. If he had just kept within the remit that the SADC protocols permitted, he would have just, it was SADC that would be communicating the findings and everything else. All he needed to do is, he's part of the report. Is he the one that wrote that report? Is it his report? No, he's head of the mission. So there are many others. And who gives them the mandate to do that? It was SADC. So what constitution were they supposed to be saying, talking about? Have we followed the SADC principles and protocols that govern elections? Yes, they did not, or yes, you did not, or you did, and stick to that. When you start going beyond that and start making it about Mumba, then now you find that there's a connection. Here's where I'm making the connection. There's a connection between Mumba.
Already people are calling you ZANU. They say you have got a ZANU biased observation. ZANU was still going to make it about the person the other way.
Yeah, but he's aided that. He's given them that ammunition. He's given them that ammunition. He could have followed the remit within which SADC would have wanted him to operate. But the whole thing now, that he even is the one mentioning in different interviews that he has done with different media houses, that he was sent by HH. He's now putting HH under that line of fire, that he was sent by HH. I went to meet the president.
Did he actually say I was sent by HH? Did you hear him say?
He says that. Listen to all the interviews that he has done. He says that when it was HH that sent him to Zimbabwe and said to him this, that was it HH that sent him, or was it SADC? So he needs to make that clarification, because right now, this is what then aids the likes of KALABA to then say, step down, this. If you look at it, these two guys have one thing in common. They both were defending Hubert Angel in the gold mafia thing. They both made similar videos. So how is it that we then remove ourselves or our thinking that these guys have a connection ultimate connection with this, and their
Right.
whole
Wait a minute.
reason why
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's get this right.
Mhm.
Right. Brilliant. People are saying you are ZANU here. Your mindset is ZANU. Your thoughts are ZANU. Okay. And now you are telling me that there are only two Zambians who recorded videos protecting Mnangagwa and protecting Hubert Angel over gold smuggling. Now, can you expand on that? Because we need
Right.
to understand. Because
So
is that this year? That's this year, is it?
following the gold mafia documentaries that were on Al Jazeera, the 4 documentary series that we got, two prominent Zambians came out as if reading the same script. And these two were Nervous Mumba and Hari Kalaba. Hari Kalaba, in one interview, even when you confronted Hari Kalaba and said you are aiding and assisting Zimbabweans to the election in Zimbabwe to be rigged because you are defending those that were involved in the gold mafia, his response in one of the interviews was what? Was, I am here in Zambia. How do I assist an election getting rigged? I just said what I said about Hubert Angel, but my senior brother also said, he links it up himself, also said more, and he's the one in Zimbabwe as head of mission for SADC. So if there was anyone to rig an election, who would it be? So this report, he can write and say all these things and be the one trying, of all the observer missions that we've ever had. We have the European Union there, we have the African Union there. The heads of those other missions, are we seeing them making a lot of noise and saying a lot of things like what we saw? They all said the same thing. Election was not free, it was not fair. But have we seen them run around making as many of these noises and interviews as what Nervous Mumba has been doing? So people can say, yes, you are ZANU, your thinking is ZANU, but that's me. That's how I think. That's my opinion. That's why I say to you here, it's an opinion that may offend other people, but open your thinking, look at the facts, look at all the other things that I'm talking about. Go and watch what KALABA has been saying. Go and watch what Mumba says about Hubert Angel. Go and watch what KALABA says about Hubert Angel and about Zimbabwe. And then put these things together and try and separate this from being me being ZANU or whatever. But look at what I'm talking about. And then we can have a discussion that is more informed after that.
Right. I was actually trying to look for that video so that maybe we could even end with it. I think it would be good to have a bit of context around it. I hope you can hear me. Brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you listen to the one that Mumba does, then you question yourself as to, okay, is this Mumba guy really with because right now he's trying to make it look like everything is HH's fault. HH is the one that gave me this mandate. And then we hear this one saying he should step down. So these guys are with this, and they all are claiming to be Pan-Africanist in their thinking. And so by that, the labeling that we've already seen being put on HH is an imperialist agent pushing the imperialist agenda. That puts him at loggerheads with this Mumba, because Mumba is saying he's of the Pan-Africanist view that is pro this and is against what Al Jazeera does, against what the Westerners do, and all that. So does that not make him somebody that is a danger to HH? And yet he pretends to be representing HH. That is where my thinking is, and my analysis is on that. So let's look at it like that without having these blinkers, but take off the blinkers and just look at things and try and think outside the box and the frames that we've been put in. Let's break free of those and start thinking outside.
Here, not there. But are you working with those gold mafias? Are you part of them? for you to do that, and you were given a script, and all kinds of allegations were thrown at me. Quite strange, I must say.
Great. When you say quite strange, I think the Zambians would want to know, because especially on the basis of the allegations that were made. Let's also first of all talk about the timing of the intrusive interview. Zimbabwe was voting, and the journalist accuses you to be playing a part in a possible plot to rig the elections. That's quite a very serious allegation, especially on the poor day of the Zimbabweans.
I don't know how Harry KALABA can get involved in rigging elections in Zimbabwe. I don't know how I can get involved. Me making a comment on a matter that was known by the whole world, and I made my own independent comment on that particular Al Jazeera documentary. And by the way, I was not the only one in this country who made a documentary. I mean, who made a comment on that one. I think my elder brother, Dr. Nevas Mumba, did make a comment on that documentary. And today, as you and I are speaking, he is heading the SADC group in Zimbabwe. So I don't know why. So who can rig? The one who is monitoring the elections there, or the one who has not even been there? I don't know. So I don't understand.
We would like to finally make a comment on the trending documentary that is made by Al Jazeera concerning what they are calling the God Mafia, in which Zimbabwe is mentioned. We take great exception to this piece and to this documentary or documentaries. First of all, 21 years ago, sanctions were imposed against Zimbabwe purely because the United States, the United Kingdom, and European Union believed that President Mugabe at that time had made a mistake to repossess land or to do certain things, and they imposed sanctions. They have a right to impose sanctions on anybody they want. But Zimbabwe cannot sit and say, now that we have sanctions against us, let us die. The reason why a president is elected, whether war comes, he must perform. Whether there is peace, he must perform. Whether there are sanctions, he must perform. Whether there are no sanctions, he must make sure the economy is performing. That is the responsibility of the president of Zimbabwe. And I think that the issue of dealing with our natural resources remains our responsibility as Africans. We can decide to do with our resources as we wish, as long as we are serving the interest of our people. We therefore disagree with the spirit behind these documentaries, and we do not think they are in good faith. We don't see anything in those documentaries that make whether President of Zimbabwe or Prophet Angel, Hubert Angel, that makes them be people that have broken the law of the land. We think that what we have watched is an attempt to mudsling individuals and to destroy their names and their reputations. And it's unfortunate. We must also understand that Russia has also had sanctions against it. We would like to see Al Jazeera do another damning documentary about President Putin and Russia, because the dollar, the use of the dollar has been withdrawn from them. I mean, they have been withdrawn from certain money markets, and the oil, and people have sanctioned it against the sale of oil to other countries to paralyze it. But President Putin has put in place his own measures, starting to use his own money, the ruble, against using other people's money. If it was an African country, it would be talk in Washington, it would be talk in Germany, it would be talk in London, it would be talk everywhere else that they are breaching the sanctions that have been put against them. We don't agree with that. The day we are going to see damning documentaries on these countries, including Dubai, where all this activity takes place, how can there be a documentary about the God of Zimbabwe without another documentary on where the God of Zimbabwe goes in Dubai? I do not understand that. So as a Pan-Africanist, our fight is not against anything, but we must fight for our survival as a people. And so we take great exception to all that which is being said. As to the church, I encourage you not to demonize Hubert Angel for playing the role that he's playing. As a matter of fact, the church around Africa must start to engage in becoming a solution to the complex problems that our countries are facing. Hubert Angel finds himself in a place where he could use his gifts and his commitment to God to hear God and find solutions to the problems that somebody else may not find. And here we are not supporting illegalities. If there's any illegalities, Zimbabwe has courts of law which don't exempt any politician, any civil servant. They can really go there and be dealt with. But we think that as a church, just because we do not support each other does not mean we use this opportunity to demonize Prophet Hubert Angel. So I think it is important for us to understand that he's becoming a solution. He's not the first one to do this, and he's not the first one to be misunderstood. He's not even the first one to be demonized. Joseph of the Bible comes from Israel, where they worshipped only one God, and then ended up in Egypt, where they worshipped multiple gods. He put on the robe of an ungodly king Pharaoh, the ring of ungodly Pharaoh, and married the daughter of the priest of On, a strange god. But the mission that he was doing there was to ensure that he saves a generation of people that could have died from hunger. God placed him there to become a solution. And that is why today we celebrate, because Joseph was able to withstand the ungodly wind around him. He preserved the line of Judah, out of which came David, Jesus, and Christianity. So I think that for the church, it is important for you to understand that it's not criminality when you are not breaking the laws of the land, but you are trying to answer the question that is it. The ungodly wind around him, he preserved the line of Judah, out of which came David, Jesus, and Christianity. So I think that for the church, it is important for you to understand that it's not criminality when you are not breaking the laws of the land, but you are trying to answer the question that is in your country. That's what we are called for. So for us, we do not look at this documentary as being in good faith. You must understand that the international community has got its own way it thinks about Africa. So to the Africans, let us be careful. We are an endangered species. And if Zimbabwe is attacked today for using its own God in the way they want to use it, I think that tomorrow it will be Zambia. Tomorrow, the other day it will be Malawi. The other day it will be Kenya. We must hold together. A country with sanctions must find a way to survive. And I believe Zimbabwe is doing whatsoever it's in its power to survive. So today I just wanted to address myself to the fact that this documentary or these documentaries are not in good faith until and unless Al Jazeera can do the same for all the countries of the world that are operating outside the international system by virtue of sanctions applied to them. So this is our position. We think that there's nothing in those documentaries that could criminalize either the Prophet Angel or the President of Zimbabwe. We think that what they're trying to cure, as we say at law, is a situation where sanctions are biting away the opportunities of the Zimbabwean people. That's why a president is elected, and that is why he is president, and that is why he is doing what he's doing to normalize the economy of his country. We thank you.
Nah. You see,
Did I actually hear that? I'm just wondering.
did you hear the
No,
number
yeah,
of
because you know what?
times?
I mean, it's not my first time listening to this video, but just replaying it, the stuff that I'm now getting to hear in my ears, and I'm thinking, what type of demon is talking here?
Right. So how many times, right? People might think I'm obsessing over this, but how many times did he mention the name Prophet Hubert Angel in this? It's as if this was designed to just sort of launder that name, cleanse that name.
Were you actually counting the numbers?
About 8 times I heard it.
Okay.
8 times.
And how many?
So
Okay. And how many times did we hear Pan Africanism?
Pan-Africanism was probably mentioned 2 times, 2.5-ish. And then the name Emerson Mnangagwa and the president of Zimbabwe was mentioned 4 times. So the
4
idea
times.
here,
4 times.
4 times. 8, twice as much he mentioned. He even compares Hubert Angel to Joseph in the Bible. And
yeah.
the thing is, this is the same man, right? If you're saying here that because of Zimbabwe's sanctions, they can do all they want with the gold, even if it means we're going to steal the gold from Zimbabwe. Gold mafia, he can go ahead, do whatever it is that they want because there's sanctions. What if we use the same argument and say because of sanctions that are in Zimbabwe, the elections can be held in whatever way that they see fit because they're under sanctions? So this guy, to me, is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is literally if you look at the bigger picture here, setting up HH to be the enemy of everybody else that is in the SADC region that has revolutionary parties in their countries, because they're setting him up. He is saying it was the president. We can play another interview that he did. He says the president of Zambia is the one that gave him the mandate. He gave him the instructions to what to do when he gets to Zimbabwe. That's a lie, because he was not head of mission for Zambia. He was head of mission for SADC. So SADC is the one that's giving him the mandate, not HH, not Zambia. So this is then where I say, when I question Kalaba now saying HH must step down because he didn't attend the inauguration of Emerson Mnangagwa. What's at play here? Let's remove the blinkers for a minute and just say, okay, this guy, every Zimbabwean is clapping hands. The ones in the CCC are clapping hands saying, Mumba is the man, Mumba is the Doshumba is the lion. No, is he really? Look at what he's been saying prior to this. Look at now what he's doing and how much he's arming ZANU-PF to actually discredit everything because of his conduct. So that conduct, as I said, is deliberate because he knows how to act diplomatically. He knows how to be he has been a diplomat before. He has been a vice president before. So his language, he can put his language so that it's not offensive to the current situation in Zimbabwe, to either those that are in the CCC or in ZANU-PF itself. But what is he doing right now?
Oh, this is this word analysis. The things that I had not seen here. I mean, look, I personally had over an hour interaction with Nevas Mumba until he blocked me on Twitter. Sorry, on WhatsApp. And yet we actually had an interview, and I can actually show people here. We had a real interview, and the interview was on the questions that I was asked by Zambians to ask Nevas Mumba, because they said to me, Nevas Mumba has been praised by KALABA for what he did. He has been cited as an example that promoting and Hubert Anjo and Emerson Mnangagwa, covering up money laundering crimes that have been committed by either Emerson Mnangagwa or Hubert Anjo or both, is not a crime at all. So Zambians asked me, I still have those messages, by the way, literally on my portal. So when people were asking me, Zambians asked me to check this. What does this mean, Simba, then? Because here you are, you have Harry Kalaba. You traveled all the way from the UK to come here to Lusaka You're in our city. You've just exposed this gold mafia collab or member here, KALABA. But then why are you not also exposing Nevers Mumba? Because KALABA did only a fraction of what Nevers Mumba has done. The issues that you were talking about, Simba, on your live video, when you said KALABA has damaged the future, the future of Zimbabweans. He has damaged the election because he obfuscated illicit money, 240 million of illicit money that was announced and revealed by Hubert Angel in the documentary. He obfuscated and numerous other things that he obfuscated there, which is a crime in Zambia. So they said to me, look, Simba, you have done this. Why are you not exposing Nevers Mumba? Yeah. Why had KALABA? So I'd gone to interview Nevers Mumba, and I had over an hour, and Nevers Mumba confirmed to me that he truly was a participant in the Emerson Mnangagwa Prophetic Mafia since the 1990s. He has actually been the Prophetic Mafia led by Mnangagwa's prophet, Andrew Taunashe. And that definitely confirmed. He also confirmed to me that he recorded his video on the day and after talking to Hubert Angel. That was very clear to me in April. And then he refused to reverse the statements that I presented to him as dangerous for and against the people of Zimbabwe. He refused. So I don't know if this is where you are coming from now, Brilliant, that we are having a conflict. Is this what you are talking about now, that a man who is in a position that he should have been truly communicating and manifesting the mission to expose an election, is he himself part and parcel of the rigging? So you seem alleging that he is possibly a gatekeeper who appears to be against, but is not at all.
Yeah, I can say to you that when there's certain people that I look at, and even within our fraternity as journalists, there are certain journalists that would appear to be supportive of something, but really they're just waiting to strike. There are some senior ones, and the trouble is these are very popular people that everybody seems to put their hope in, and they seem to be not only double agents but triple agents. They will just go where the khaki envelope is. In my assessment of this, I found that Nevers Mumba had an opportunity to just be head of mission for SADC and follow, because there's a way that this has always been done. SADC observers, if we go back to the last election and the election before that, there were SADC observers. But we've never had a SADC observer that has done more press conferences outside the country, in which he was on SABC, he was everywhere. And in all those places, he spoke about his person. It was never the mission. And why is he doing that? Is he doing that so that his paymasters, the prophetic ones and the other ones, are happy with him just confusing a situation? Because right now, everybody seems to have been clapping hands saying, oh, this guy was brave. And maybe that also led to the hope that CCC then had that, okay, there's going to be a negotiation that's going to be forced because of the position that SADC has taken. But was that not only to buy time and then allow the CCC to relax and think, okay, things are going to be taken care of, and close that window of them taking issues to court and maybe perhaps challenging the inauguration because now things are in court? But what happened there is it seems like all that was, sort of massaged in a way and made them look like, okay, it's okay, we will take care of this. SADC is taking a very strong, very, very strong position. Is it any different? The report that SADC gave this time, is it any different from the last one, from the election before this and the election before that? The SADC reports have been as hard-hitting as this last one has been. The only thing different is that the head of mission has never been as active in trying to speak as if this is his own report as in the last couple of elections that we've had. So that's why I was more curious as to find out what this guy is really behind, and going back into, let's go back into his own space as a preacher. Let's go back into his own space. That even if you put your hope in something, you always get. So this is the same thing. This is the same problem. That's gonna master, but anyway, this is the same problem that we have, right? The problem that we have with my personal problem with the CCC is these guys they put their hope in a person,
in an individual.
When you start hearing someone like Chamisa himself saying, "Yeah, Mkoma hope," and now he's even calling him Mkoma. Now you are taken, and then he leads you on, and then when he takes you to the edge, he leaves you there. He's not the one pushing you; he just leaves you in a place where you are going to fall. The same thing that this is the same thing that this guy has done to CCC, made them believe that behind you. No, this is not going to happen this time. They thought they had all these covered, but they didn't see this one coming. But they were given this warning. Maria Gapinda bakana chitaura zvakatarwa na Hubert achiti kune
240 million.
240 million. Azvizvekutamba izvo. Ndosaka mutoona kuti vanhu vakagona kutengerwa ma2 piece chicken nemachips munhu wese anenge aenda kurally. Panenge pane mari, and then you are coming in banking on the anger of Zimbabweans. This is what you had, and banking on information that you are getting from Vana Hopewell. And you think that this is going to do it, it's just going to change. And then you come up with some sort of guy that just comes in and says, no, we'll sort it. He's left you dry now. We're back to square one. So sometimes I wouldn't say CCC acho ngaichinjwe. Ngavachinje maitiro.
Right. You know what? While we're on there, I would like to end on this. There's a question that Mumba hasn't answered me up to this day. Are you aware, Brilliant? We're now over a week. I see some people here saying that you are ZANU. Right. And I think it would be good if these people come on video and then they will speak here.
Well, Simba, to be honest with you, right? If I had $1 for every person that called me ZANU, if I had $1, I would buy Kasukuere's house. I would buy Kasukuere's house.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to try and get to declare that I'm still waiting on Mumba to come back to me and tell me.
But what was the question? What was
the question was, when are you going to apologize and reverse the genocide triggering statements you made, which are more damaging than anything SADC could ever do, even for centuries to come? What I mean that nothing good that SADC will ever do for centuries to come will be able to reverse the damage that you, Nevas Mumba, caused on our people by recording your video abusing the Zambia government flag insignia. And yet you had received a script from Hubert Angel. Those were not your thoughts. Those were not the church's thoughts. Those were not any organization that you represented as thoughts. Those were Hubert Angel's thoughts. And we have the evidence here. And, at first he was refusing. Later on, he confirmed that he had truly spoken with the fake prophet. And he himself had a phone call with the fake prophet before recording that video. So quickly, I then stated to you, do you realize that Dr. Mumba, the reason why I flew into Lusaka right now, the reason why I'm still in Lusaka, I've stayed in Lusaka for such a long time, is because of you and Eric Kalaba. You are the two people that I came here looking for. Are you aware? So I'm sure, I don't know if that was a surprise to him, but hear me. We talked until, the eventually he didn't call me back. I mean, after that one now, and then I noticed on WhatsApp I'd been blocked. But I'm just wondering here, could this be it? That what you're talking about? Let's try to wrap up, and then thank you.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. This net, I mean, as time goes, because we have given a lot of things here, and I don't want to overload people with information, but there's Hari Kalaba, there's Nevis Mumba. The net is wider. These are just the two Zambians. There's some Zimbabweans that are in South Africa that are involved in this whole cover up. This whole thing, it's a network. And we will break this down. And why I am so keen on doing this is because there's a dangerous side for me when these politicians become zombies of these so-called prophets. And they now think, because this prophet has said this, they owe it to this prophet. Kalaba has been told by Bushiri that he will be Zambian leader. He believes that 100%. And he thinks that he has to do as he is told by these leaders, these spiritual fathers, whatevers, to become the president. So if they were to tell Kalaba today, read this speech, do this, do that, he will do exactly as that has been said, because he believes that this is an order and an instruction from God. We have the same person who is also a minister, by the way, Mumba. He's also a minister of the gospel. This is the same guy comparing Hubert Angel to Joseph. In his speech, if you listen to the one that you just played, he compares Hubert Angel to Joseph in the Bible, and is thinking that this is a man that has been sent by God to rescue Zimbabwe. That is dangerous for me. It's a dangerous thing when I see a politician now, being controlled like that by these charlatans. It's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. And perhaps that's where I'll stop there for now, because I've got a lot to say, but I'll stop there for now.
I think we need another session tomorrow.
Yeah.
We need another session. Good evening, Wilbert. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, I've just seen
your link. You came in while we're about to conclude. You know, Wilbert, where I've been spending my weeks in, right? Which country or which city?
No, I don't know.
Right, you know me. I go where the action is.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lusaka.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe you were not following. You're one of those Zimbabweans who were not following. I traveled to Lusaka. I was hunting down two gold mafia members, two people who have been communicating. They've been getting orders from Hubert Angel, and they work together to discourage police across different countries using video. I call them video documents that Hubert Angel scripted, like everything word for word. And he made instructions. He even paid certain people to make and upload these videos. So these two people, Wilbert, are Kalaba And the second one is your Nevers Mumba, who you Zimbabweans are praising, and you're claiming that he's a savior.
Right.
So that's what we've been talking about. It's quite hot. I know, Wilbert, that's quite hot territory for you. I think you need to come in tomorrow. But it was what classic, Wilbert. I thought you had seen the live video. I managed to trap the first Gold Mafia member, KALABA, who is running for presidency in Zambia, by promising him a golden iPhone 15. Wilbert, I don't know what number your iPhone is on, right? But there's no iPhone 15 that exists, but you actually believe, right? So the guy actually believed. I promised him on the 2nd of August. I'll be playing the videos maybe tomorrow. I
But
promised him. Yeah,
Simba,
yeah.
let me just interject there.
Mhm.
This is what I was trying to explain. Do you know why he believed that you genuinely had a golden iPhone 15?
Let me hear you.
It's because you said, where is it coming from? You told him from who it's coming from. The minute you said it's coming from Prophet Inc., you could have said iPhone 25. You'd have believed the Prophet has it. This is how these guys, it doesn't matter. This is the thing. I've been in these particular churches before. It doesn't matter. You can have somebody that's a medical doctor. It could be a professor of engineering or whatever. Once they are under the spell of those guys, they'll believe everything he says. Hari KALABA, politician as he is, he thought iPhone 15 coming from Prophet Hubert Angel, and you said, come and get it at this. He rushed. He did not question it. He rushed to come and meet you. This is a person that is a top politician, top opposition politician. It's akin, let me put it into perspective. It's akin to me going into Zimbabwe and promising Nelson Chamisa an iPhone 17 and saying, meet me, but join us, and he rushes there. This is how big this thing is, because if you put it into perspective and use a similar sort of figure in Zimbabwe for people to get the perspective of what this is, and he comes there to meet you, you even talk to him and say, I am the one that has come with it, and you walk around with him for a good few minutes before you then reveal yourself.
Yeah,
and tomorrow this guy can be president of Zambia. It can happen that he can win. But this is what I'm saying, that the reason, if it was from any other person, if the names, because this is what happens. These guys are like, the minute that name is mentioned, they're like zombies. It doesn't matter how educated or how popular they are. They will they will follow the command.
Wow.
I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
No, but my argument with you, gentlemen, when it comes to Dr. Mumba, is that I want to focus just purely on his report on Zimbabwe's elections. I mean, the three of us here cannot deny that Zimbabwean elections have been flawed.
Yes.
And illegal. That is one of the basic problems that ZANU-PF has ever had. So in most of these cases, when they start disputing what Dr. Mumba and this group said, they lose credibility because many people know that elections in Zimbabwe have been flawed. You know,
but
and I think that point is something that maybe needs to be looked at.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. But what I am saying is, in all the reports that we've had, the last election, not this one gone, the one before that, if you look at the report, what is the major difference between what was said in the report and what was said in this report? It's not the first time that SADC has condemned Zimbabwean elections. It's not the first time, but the activity of the head of mission has never been such that we've seen with Mumba. And the reason why I'm saying that is, yes, report is report as it is, but what he is doing and how he is acting gives ammunition to ZANU-PF to attack not just Mumba, but the entire thing by exposing how Mumba is behaving. This is where I'm saying he could have given the report and stopped at that.
Yeah, but in this case here, the 2018 report, for instance, did not say the elections were flawed, did not say the elections were illegal. The reports in the past, except for 2008, when the process had become so flawed, I mean, the cheating was so blatant, the violence was so rampant that even SADC and the EU could not pretend that that didn't happen. But after that, SADC has always said, if you look at the 2018, their report says the election was substantially free, fair, and credible. When, of course, they were not. You know,
I
this
think
is what
it seems to me that where Brilliant is what Brilliant is trying to say here. In 2008, Wilbert, do you remember who was the head of the commission in 2008?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
And the election before that?
You mean before that in 2002 or whatever it is?
Yeah, the one that was the most violent one. Who was
the most violent one was 2008.
Yes, and who was the head? Do you remember who the head of mission was? SADC head of mission was?
I don't know.
They condemned the election, but because they did it in a way that did not have the head of mission singling himself out and going to give presentations and interviews everywhere outside what SADC normally does. This is what the issue that I have with Mumba is, yes, we understand the report, but this is the actions now. If you look at what Jonathan Moyo has just put together and the questions that is asking SADC to respond with regards Mumba, why has he gone to do that? Why has Mumba gone outside the perimeters of SADC to do what he's doing now? Because now it gives all these guys that are within ZANU to talk now and say, oh, but this, but this, but this, but that.
Yeah,
we're no longer focusing on the report. We're now focusing on the guy.
That is a typical ZANU PF tactic. That I can tell you now. The reason why the 2008 ZANU PF did not go to town about attacking the SADC report and the AU report is simple. It was so blatant. You know, let's be honest here. What happened in 2008 had never happened before in any of the African countries, except maybe Kenya. At one point, they had also very violent elections, and that is what really galvanized it to the point where, you know, even Morgan Tsvangirai had to withdraw because the situation was so violent. You know, according to some reports, over 500 people were murdered in just 3 months. That level of violence, you cannot pretend it was not happening. But this time, 2023, the level of violence was there, but it was never to the same extent as 2008. The level of intimidation was there, but it was never to the same level as 2008. ZANU PF had learned from 2008. 2018, if you look at it, you'll find there was hardly any violence at all. In other words, ZANU PF managed to keep their dogs on the leash. You know, in 2018, there was also very little violence. They only released them after the elections. The shooting that Simba is well documented on this program on Zimai happened on the 1st of August after the elections. And only 6 people were killed. Nothing compared to 2008. And if there was a rerun, a runoff this year, what I was saying to Simba is you'll see the level of violence escalating considerably. So if Mnangagwa, it had been declared that it was no one had won it, and there was need for a runoff rather, I think you would have seen a lot of violence, because part of the data that they were collecting on election day was meant to see who did not vote for ZANU PF, and those people were going to be targeted. So I agree, the level of violence this year, ZANU-PF expected they would get away with, well, it was substantially free, fair, and credible. But I think SADC this time and the AU decided that enough is enough. The level of violence, the level of the political playing field was uneven. I mean, one of the things that they ignored, ZANU-PF ignored, was that they didn't even produce a verified voters roll. You know, how can you have an election without a verified voters roll? I mean, that's ridiculous.
But here's my thing, Guru. There was not only SADC. We're talking.
Let's try to wrap up, and I think maybe if we can make them closing remarks, because we've been yeah, thanks.
Yes, cheers. Let's wrap up. But what I'm going to say is that we had the AU, which is what I said before. We had the AU, we had EU, we had SADC. All these had missions that had head of missions. They all pretty much came up with the same conclusions with regard to this past election, the 2023 election. But there seems to be much noise from one head of mission. That is where I'm curious, what I'm curious about, why that one particular person. There's head of mission for AU. They came up with the same conclusions almost. EU came up with the same conclusions almost. That the election was not free, it was not fair. But why Mumba? Why is it that Mumba has become such a person that's all over the place talking about, and it's no longer about SADC, it's about him now. This is where I'm saying connect the dots and see that Mumba is now making all this noise for other reasons. And we'll get to that. We'll continue digging.
Well, my answer
I think that's where we'll bet. That's where the iPhone 15, the golden iPhone 15 man comes in there. That's where Hubert Angel comes in as well. That's where the control comes from Hubert Mnangagwa to help to campaign so that the narrative is sold. The false story that Mnangagwa is allowed to do gold smuggling and to do money laundering because Zimbabwe has sanctions and all that. So that is where I think Brilliant is coming from now, and that's where he's saying, look, there's something there that Zimbabweans should know about while they're celebrating for this preacher. Yes, Hubert, maybe give us your 30 seconds and then we'll shut.
Yes, my closing remark would be, in this particular case, while I agree that maybe Dr. Mumba has become the target and not all the other ones, ZANU-PF would have dismissed the European Union's reports if they were critical, just as they did in 2018, because they would turn around, as long as they get the support from SADC and the AU, ZANU-PF is happy with that. But the minute they realized that they didn't get the support from SADC, particularly, I think whoever was going to be the head of that, even if it was somebody else, as long as they, at the end of the day, were saying those elections were not free, fair, and credible, and the results could not produce a legitimate government, I can tell you now, ZANU-PF would have been furious at that. And ZANU-PF's tactic is a well-known one. If you cannot address the message, attack the messenger. And attacking Mumba was the easiest thing to do. And in this particular case, I think they also had the help from South Africa, who have got this agenda that countries like Zambia have got an agenda of making sure that all the liberation parties that fought the liberation wars must be phased out, which to me is, they may have their own reasons for that, they may have their evidence for that, but nonetheless, the fact of the matter still remains that the people of Zimbabwe in a free, fair, and credible elections should be the only ones who decide who gets to rule the country. And that point we cannot run away from. And I think that makes their position very weak, even ANC's position very weak. ANC cannot turn around and say, we are not going to have regime change in Zimbabwe. Who are you? I mean, just as much as I as a Zimbabwean, I can't turn around and say, we are not going to tolerate regime change in Malawi or Zambia or Kenya or some other country. People will say, who are you? You may be a powerful nation in the region, but that doesn't give you the authority to override the fundamental right of the people of that country to decide who rules the country in a free, fair, and credible election.
Right. And I think on that note, we'll need to be shutting. That is what, while you were speaking, Brilliant seems to be so convinced as he's saying, look, in as much as there's all this celebration, people need to be aware that there is likely and there is an insider here who is playing the same side. What does that mean? You're playing in a football match and then you're on the other side. You appear to be on this side, then you are still on the other side. Wow.
I think it's an interesting line. It's an interesting argument. I agree with that. But I think in this particular case, LOPF did not do themselves any favors at all.
Let's catch up tomorrow, Jen. Thank you so much.
Time will tell. Let's keep digging.
Let's catch up tomorrow. Cheers, folks.
No problem.
Right, good night. Sorry, I was late. I saw your link just now.
No, don't worry.